I've been growing tomatoes for 25 years. Over the years, every year I've been planting either a plot of a Harris Moran variety or a trial for Harris Moran. So I've always got to see all their new varieties that have come up throughout the years. And to be perfectly honest, I really was never impressed.
One for more.
Yeah, I can't do. The bees there. Bob, Chuck in the truck. Hey, we're up here in the Robbins area.
I'm always reminded about in grade school when we'd recess would go out to play softball. It seemed like in my case the coaches or the team captains they didn't fight over who was going to get me. It was going to be who had to take me. But it's not a very good feeling. Everyone wants to be recognized. Everybody wants to be appreciated for what they're doing, and it was tough with the processing tomato, not having the variety that the growers wanted, and as a result, the dealers were wanting.
My dream to become a commercial breeder, and started in 2009. I got this opportunity to work as a processing tomato breeder, and I got very, very excited. And that time, our market share is not very good.
We didn't have just a little over 1% of the market share with processing tomatoes. We were watching the other seed suppliers. They were doing real well.
A processor, dealers, our customer does not have any interest to talk to us. Even we have a meeting, we run into each other in the meetings, and so nobody wanted to talk to us.
I think in those first few years, there was kind of a lot of rumors that the company was thinking about whether or not we should be breeding processing tomatoes or not.
Chuck, Adler, and myself, we started to think about what we needed to do.
We both needed to learn more of the market. We needed to have a plant breeder that was out in the field, not only meeting the growers, but the dealers and the processors.
I'm just a lab guy, close the door and work at the bench, 5 days a week. But it's Chuck take me to the industry.
CJ was quick to get out of the lab, put his boots on, and get out there with us.
There are 13 processors in California, and we visit each of them, and we visit the major growers in California, and also the 2 major dealers. Immediately, we found out the most important trait for the processing tomato is the yield at the bricks.
The yield is our bottom line. If we don't get yield out here, we don't make a profit. We don't make a profit, we don't grow next year.
In processing, we're evaporating the water out of the tomatoes, and what's left are the soluble solids or bricks and the insoluble solids. And they combine to create characteristics that determine whether or not a processor is going to make a thin product like tomato soup or tomato juice, or a thick product like pizza sauce, for example, or spaghetti sauce.
We get all the information and look at the germplasm we have in the breeding program. As there's some hybrid already have a high yield, but the bricks is very low. And some variety have a pretty good bricks, but the yield is not there. So my first work is really to try to combine these two together.
I remember a day when it was almost time to start evaluating our breeder trial. Before, we used to just make piles of tomatoes, and he would look at the pile and he would say, that's a good big pile or a small one. There's a lot of things that you can't see that could go on. Maybe the pile's flat, but it's really broad, or maybe the ground underneath is not level. And we decided we wanted to actually weigh and measure the yield. So I drove up to Roseville to this luggage store that I found there at the mall, and they had a nice handheld luggage scale. I went out to the hardware store then, and I got a metal hook so that I could hook a bucket with it. And we went out there with some buckets and made our piles, and then we started putting the piles of tomatoes in the buckets and weighing them with the scale. The data was pretty clear. There was some really high-yielding varieties. That's the summer that we discovered what became HM.CLAUSE.
Oh, yeah, look at that. It was obvious, right obvious, that the yield of this variety was going to be good. It actually proved out to be almost 10 tons more per acre than the state average. With that being the case, we realized we were going to need large quantities of seed.
Talking to the breeder, he says, I can produce the best hybrid in the world, but if it is not producible and we don't get the seed that we need to put in the marketplace, it doesn't mean anything. The processing tomatoes, not all have high yield, so we have to find ways to manage the plant specifically for seed production in terms of agronomics, etc. The sudden increase of HM.1892 put us into gear to get this place in the world. And this year we are better off because we know how to produce this, and our growers know the parents, so we should be better off, and we are confident we will get the seed in quantity and quality.
HM.1892 provided us high yields. We had high yields, we had the adaptability, but we knew we had a long ways to go because the competition varieties were high in Brix, and we still had 3 to 4 tenths to go. And that was going to be CJ's challenge to get us a variety that would give us that higher Brix.
Luckily, processing tomato have many markers available already when I started. So that's the area I have been working for over 15 years in my career. And the research molecular lab project manager, Eric Linetto, he's the best molecular biologist I can imagine.
Chen Xiao went to me in 2011, I think, with new ideas. And the idea was to introduce new Brix QTL or genes and resistances in the elite lines. So he wanted to produce a new hybrids with these new traits in 1.5 years. So it was the challenge for this project.
Our first cross, we have 3,200 plants.
When we selected the best plants, we ran some markers for the background to select plant with the best recurrent parent background.
And the tool is just to help you choose which of those thousands is the one that you want. Otherwise, you have to grow out a whole field like this, and you have to look, and it's dependent on your eye. Also, it may or may not have the new trait that you wanted, which is the higher Brix.
And after that, when we obtain the second or third generation, we fix the plant and we obtain the fixed line with the new trait and the recurrent parent genome. We use also embryo rescue during the process to speed up the process and to have plant as fast as possible. When we introduce the Brix QTL, we identify that one QTL increase also the yield. So we were lucky a little bit, and so we increased yield and Brix in the same time.
Through classical breeding, it takes 5 or 6 years by crossing through classical breeding, plus 2 to 3 years trialing. And total, the whole process can take somewhere from 8 to 10 years. And through the molecular way breeding, this whole process from the first cross to the final commercial production, it takes us 2.5 years.
Thanks again. It's been fun. Bye-bye.
In tomatoes, it's June, and it's usually about the time I'm starting to panic that the tomatoes aren't putting enough fruit on and they're not looking good enough before harvest. And this year, I walk out in a 3887 and I get excited. I feel like there's a giant potential out there.
It's a variety that right now all processors are liking, and they give everybody what they need: peelability, yield, and quality. And as you drive by, everybody's looking at that one variety. What is that? Because of the growth. The plant structure and the root system together is putting on a beautiful flower set right now at this time. Because to have a big crop, you need a big house to hold those kids, and that's what we need.
This year, HM.CLAUSE will come close to 15% of the market in California, so tremendous progress, and most of it's taken place over the last few years. We're forecasting that HM.CLAUSE will exceed 20% next year if they can get the seed to us that we want to sell.
Sometimes the breeder is putting so many traits in there that we have to make a special management to make the plant more generative and going more into seed production than being a big plant that produces a lot of fruits. So we are in the process of finding the best location for these hybrids, trying to match the demand that is in the marketplace. But we already have 2 years of experience in different countries, so we know where to go and how to handle this. And our stock seed department is moving along with more increases, so we have the right purity of the stock seed for the future.
It's very interesting because most of the breeders want to introduce the same QTL in different backgrounds to see if we obtain the same effect in different backgrounds. So in cherry tomato, in beef, and on round tomato. So it's really a success.
You can trace the germplasm improvement from one generation to another generation, and you can also see the impact to the industry, eventually to the farmers.
If I have a goal, it would be to have a variety that we can sell to Heinz that they want in their ketchup bottle. So on that bottle, it'll say, not only do we have Heinz varieties, but we also have HM.CLAUSE varieties.
They have fabulous leadership. They give them the budget and the latitude to do what they need to do to get the job done. And they are observing what's happening in the field, listening, and they're great partners, great communication, great seed production team. It's really working out, and we're seeing some very significant market share growth with our partners at HM.CLAUSE. It's really, really a fun time.